The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
While some people were speaking about how the temple was adorned with costly stones and votive offerings, Jesus said, "All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down." Then they asked him, "Teacher, when will this happen? And what sign will there be there? Will there be when all these things are about to happen?" He answered, "See that you not be deceived, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and the time has come. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified. For such things must happen first, but it will not immediately be the end." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be powerful earthquakes, famines, and plagues from place to place, and awesome sights and mighty signs will come from the sky. Before all this happens, however, they will seize and persecute you. They will hand you over to the synagogues and to prisons, and they will have you led before kings and governors because of my name. It will lead to you giving testimony. Remember, you are not to prepare your defense beforehand. For I myself shall give you a wisdom in speaking, that all your adversaries will be powerless to resist or refute. You will even be handed over by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends. And they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name. But not a hair on your head will be destroyed. By your perseverance, you will secure your lives." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Glorious morning to everybody. I want to begin with a great philosophical question. I know it's a little early to get deeply philosophical before our coffee. It's always a great question to ponder the big questions of existence and life. So let me ask you, what do you build your life upon? It's a weird question, isn't it? What are you talking about? What do you and I, so I'm asking myself as well, what do we build our life upon? It's a fantastic question, and if you're looking around in your brain for the answer, one way to get to the heart of this, so ask yourself, what do you spend the most time on? Because that which we build our lives upon, that which we value, tends to correlate with that thing or action which we spend the most time with. So what do you build your life upon? Or in other words, what do you spend the most time on? And that will speak to the foundations of which we build our lives. That is the heart of what our Lord, in this shocking gospel to the first century hearers, it would have absolutely shaken them to their core. Because look at the great question. It begins in the gospel. They were in the temple, and they were oohing and awing at the majesty of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Because what is the temple? Even to this very day, that Jewish temple was the foundation by which the Jewish people built their entire civilization upon. Everything revolved around the Jewish temple. It was literally the dwelling place of God on earth. It was the center of their political and religious and cultural life. It was, in a sense, it was the core of their universe. And so here the Jews, they're looking at this magnificent temple. It would have been absolutely spectacular. And it says, they were admiring the costly stones and the votive offerings. It would have been covered in gold, marble. Oh, stunning. And as they're looking at this beautiful temple, the center of their entire world, Jesus punches them in the face, essentially. He says, all of this will be destroyed. Do you now sense the gut punch here? It would have completely knocked the wind out of them. We're like, what are you talking about, Jesus? To put it in more modern context, imagine if we're in Washington, D.C. You ever been to D.C.? Tons of museums, beautiful to kind of walk the sites of our capital. Imagine now if you're standing in front of the White House or the Capitol building and someone says to you, all of this will be destroyed. How would we feel as Americans? Oh, it would shock us. That's a fraction of what the disciples would have felt here. And so they asked the question, Lord, when will this happen? The core of this question now becomes what our Lord is trying to change in the heart of these disciples is that don't build your life upon things that will eventually be destroyed. Things that will not last. Things that will eventually crumble into dust. What do we build our lives upon? As you leave, you'll get a bulletin, of course. And on the cover of the bulletin, it's a photo. It's a photo taken around 2008, 2009. It was when I was still a seminarian in Rome. And we're in the photo with my fellow classmates, and we're just out a night on the town in the city of Rome. As we know, Rome, amazing Italian food, by the way. And we're sitting just wining and dining. And one of the beautiful things about the city of Rome, when you go to seminary there, is that countries all over the world send their students there. And so what you begin to learn when you live in Rome and study in Rome, you get to hear about what's happening all across the world, in the world of the Catholic Church. You get to hear what's happening in the church in China. Well, you're studying next to a guy from China. What is happening in the jungles of Latin America? Well, you're studying with a guy from Paraguay or from Colombia. What is happening in the deserts of sub-Saharan Africa? Well, you got a guy from Africa next to you in class. And on the photo there, when you pick it up, on the very far left, you'll see a little head trying to poke his head out as we take the group picture. His name? Father Michele. A priest from Syria. We had classes together, studied the same universities, we'd spend our coffee breaks. And when we were all ordained, we all went back to our respective countries. me back to crazy California. He back to Syria. And we begin to hear reports what happened. And if you remember in Syria back in that time period, it was a tough place to be. Father Michele was on a bus with his parishioners. They were driving to Lebanon. They get pulled over by Islamic terrorists. They board the bus with their AK-47s. Father Michele is there, along with another priest. And as they're walking down the aisle of this crowded bus, they see Father Michele with his collar on. They point to him, "Get off the bus." He gets off the bus. Of course, what are you going to do? You're standing in front of a guy with a machine gun. They kidnap Father Michele and another priest. They disappear for a few weeks until the ransom call comes to his mom. "Give us this amount," I forget the amount of money. And immediately the words of the gospel rings loudly. "You will be hated by all because of my name. For they will put some of you to death." You see, in seminary, what we strive to do when we train the men to be priests, we strive to tell these young men, build your life on Jesus Christ. Our entire lives revolve around our Lord. We focus on nothing else. Our entire schedule, our entire calendar, our entire time revolves around our Lord. And so now when Father Michele, faithfully serving the Catholic faithful in Syria, on that bus, he was delivering school supplies, pencils and papers, backpacks to the Catholic schools. You could have told him, "Father Michele, why are you going to Lebanon? Stay home. Don't you realize there's a war?" I bet you what Father Michele would say. "My life revolves around our Lord." How can I not serve the people? So on his little bus, he went. We haven't heard from Father Michele in 10 years. We presume the worst. I think of Father, my friend, often. Oh, but it fires me up as well. Why? There's nothing more glorious than to live your life for Christ. You see, everything that we see around us is crumbling. Everything will eventually fade away. And so let me ask you, my dear friends, my brothers and sisters, I want to challenge you now, because as your pastor, part of my role to serve you as well is to fire you up for the Lord. So I want to ask you bluntly, how much time do you spend with our Lord? I know at least you spend 1 hour with him, because you're here at church. Depending on how my homily is, it might be an hour and a half. I don't know. But how about Monday? Do you spend time with our Lord? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? If you're not spending time with the Lord, what is that other thing? What is it? Because I guarantee you, whatever that other thing is, if it's not the Lord, it will eventually crumble. Our Lord today wants us to build our life on Jesus Christ. It is the one thing that will last. Pursue Him. Love Him with all of your might, strength, and soul. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely worth it.